Hello guys, David Down. I felt that I should start the Hackerrank challenges from the beginning. It's just so that because the Hackerrank challenges are sort of going in order of how the Python videos are going. So every now and then we'll come on to Hackerrank and then we'll try to solve a whole lot of problems that are sort of connected to the problems that we've been doing. So in this video, I'm going to start right from the beginning. Um, I already have a HackerRank account, as you can see. There's a whole lot of things already going on here. So I'll start from the beginning of HackerRank, and then you'll see how, hopefully, you can also try solve these problems and see how they connect. The other one was Solo Learn, I think was the other one that someone asked for, and I think there was someone also lead code. But you guys can comment below which coding platforms and coding problems you want us to solve. If you watch the videos first, we shouldn't have any problem solving these, but HackerRank tends to get a little bit difficult. So it's nice to brush up and see how we compare versus how coding problems actually look in the real world. So I mean, it's one thing for us to stay on Jupyter Notebook, which I do have open here. There's Jupyter Notebook. But it's also, I think, necessary for us to actually be on these platforms where questions get asked. So I'm gonna start from the beginning of HackerRank. Goodness, it's been a minute since I've been here. Now I don't think this is the beginning. There's no way that list comprehension is HackerRank's first question. Unsolved. Let me try refresh the page, perhaps. Just a second, guys. Just bear with me. Goodness, am I on Wi-Fi? Yes, I am. Okay. Let me get out and come back in because these questions are definitely not beginner-friendly questions. I'm sure that HackerRank's first question has to be Hello World. Okay, yeah. I'm not too sure why it's starting me here. Or I think perhaps because I haven't done list comprehensions. Okay, so I think HackerRank starts here, and you'll see a whole lot of these are solved already because I've done these. I don't know why I haven't done list comprehension because it's an easy question. Okay, but that's not the point of this. So let's start with Hello World. So Hello World obviously was the first Python video we did do. So we should all be okay with solving the Hello World problem. And also, again, I'm doing this so that we are all comfortable with how HackerRank works. So you'll see with a lot of these things, it will already show me the solution because I've done it. But let's first read the problem, right? So here's a sample of a line of code that can be executed in Python. Print hello world. Cool. So we're comfortable with that. We know what this means. You can easily store a string in a variable, then print it to the standard output. So I'll explain what standard output means. The above code will print hello world on your screen. Try it yourself. Cool. So you'll see a lot of the times on HackerRank what's called a sample input and a sample output. That is them giving you an example of how the code should, when it says output, what should print to them when they're marking your code. And then sometimes, I think in this video, we will see questions where it will say sample input, where they show you what we give you to solve the problem. So for this problem, they want you to output or show us or show the screen hello world. So we know how to do that. It's print, right? Print, and then it needs to look exactly like this. So there needs to be a comma, there needs to be an exclamation mark. So hello, comma, world. So you can print it like this. The other way, they give you sort of a clue. You could have saved it to a variable and then saved a variable. So I could just do this like this. If I print this, this will work. Let's actually print it. So to check your work on HackerRank, you say run code. And I've done it wrong. You see, so it shows you your output your standard output and what they expected. So if you notice the difference here, I forgot the exclamation mark, right? So I need to put an exclamation mark for this to be right. So let me just throw in an exclamation mark there and run it. And then we see that it works. Congratulations, sample test case. Now let me quickly spend time on what a sample test case is. When they give you a problem, now this is a very simple problem, right? There's only one test case. There's no other way they can test that you've done this correctly. It must look like this. It's as simple as it looking like this. But sometimes there'll be 4 test cases, sometimes 10, sometimes 20 test cases, because you'll see that there's a lot of ways they can test what you've done. You'll see in the next problem, I would imagine. But print hello world, you could have done it like this, or you could have done it the way that they advise. So let's say my var equals, I mean, they don't advise this way. They're just showing you that you can also do it like this. However you reach this output, do that. That's all that they're trying to show you when they say expected output this, what we're showing you. So however you do it, do it. So you could also do it like this. Hello world, make sure that I've done that correctly. Okay, so let me run the code. And you'll see that it works fine. But and as we move on, you'll see, but much later, you always want to solve a problem with the most efficient way as far as time and as far as memory. Now that's a subject for a for another day. Just for now, let's make sure we know how to solve the problem. If you need to first put it in a variable, then that's completely fine. Put it in a variable. But if you can think of quicker ways to solve something, and again, I've forgotten the exclamation mark and the comma. If you can think of quicker ways to do things, then do them in the quicker way. So when you're done, right, so you can run to test that it works. When you're done, you submit the code, and then it will tell you that you passed. And this is the test case thing I was telling you about now. It will show you that you've passed the test cases, however many test cases they have. So in this case, there's only one test case, and I don't know why it's taking so long, but there's only the single test case here. So congratulations, compiler message, whatever test case. You'll see in the other ones, there'll be a whole lot of test cases here. You might pass one, but fail all the others. And then that means your code is kind of right. It's not entirely right. You need to fix it. Cool. So that's hello world. Let's move on to the next problem. If else. So this is nice because we know we've done if statement. So again, you'll see that the code is here because I've done this a very long time ago. So if else, you also can see that in the question, if else probably means that there's no alifs here. Probably. I mean, it might. We'll see that. We'll see when we run it if there is an alif clause. But if it says if else, chances are you can solve it with just if else. There's no alif. So let's read this problem. So you have a task. Okay, another thing with Hackerrank and a lot of these coding platforms, leave all of these things alone. When it says import math, import OS, random array, sys, if underscore name, that's got nothing to do with you. Your job is just to write the code here. I'll expand further in a second. You'll see here it says given an integer n, perform the following conditional actions. So they give you, a lot of the time, you'll see them give you some stuff. And a lot of the times they'll call it standard input. The word standard input's not here, but they'll say given n or given standard input n, do whatever. Don't remove this, don't touch this, don't remove things. It's got nothing to do with you. Everything that Hackerrank or whatever the other ones you guys use give you beforehand is their way of making sure that when they mark it, they're able to mark it, right? So there's n. Integer input. We haven't touched on inputs yet in our own videos. We will in the next video touch on what input is and what strip is. But basically, input is getting getting information from a user, and then strip is removing white space from a user. So let me just quickly come onto this whiteboard if it will load. Sometimes when a user gives you input, when you're running a program, maybe you need a user's name, right? And a user might write their name down and then there's white space. Maybe on, maybe I write, maybe whatever takes just my name and my surname like this, right? But then I write it like this. Strip removes this white space thing, so it puts it just like this, so that it's one word. As we move on, you'll see use cases for strip. So coming back to the problem, it says given an integer, n, which is this, so it's going to take an input, but it's going to do that. Again, don't worry too much about that. They're going to do that themselves for you. You don't have to touch this or edit this. You must just work with n. So imagine you already have a number n, right? If n is odd, print weird. If n is even and inclusive of the range 2 to 5, print not weird. If n is even and inclusive of the range 6 to 20, print weird. If n is even and greater than 20, print not weird. Now, this is a nice question because it introduces a very interesting challenge. When you've got questions that need you to use an if-else clause, if-else statement, and there's a lot of conditions, you'll see most of the time they'll trick you. I mean, you might think that the correct way to solve this would be to say, okay, check if n's odd, then print weird, then check if it's even, inclusive range 2, 5, print not weird, and then just work in this order like this. But a lot of the time, when you've got a lot of conditions, particularly when conditions include numbers that increase in ascending order, right? You want to take the biggest number and start there. I'll explain why in a second. So for this particular problem, right, if, we know what if is, n is a number that they're going to give us, is even, right? So modulus 2 is how we check if something is even, 0, and n is greater than 20, right? So what I'll do here is I'll put this in brackets. You can do that just to improve its readability, right? Or, so we're doing the not weirds first, right? So I'll explain all of this, probably not in this video, but in the next video, but just follow the code now. So not weird and not weird. So not weird if it's even and greater than 20, or we must print not weird if n, so I'll put this in brackets again, if n is even, modulus 2 is 0, and in range 2 and 6. So remember with or, we just need one of these to be true for, sorry, I didn't write this properly, and n print, and we did those two not weird, right? So again, this is going to evaluate to either a true or false statement. The reason I put it in brackets is that these and or ends are going to confuse you. And again, I made a mistake here, and n in. Okay, just fix that. This is a whole question you ask in Python. This is also a whole question. So this whole thing is going to bring me back true or false, and this whole thing is going to bring me back true or false. I just need one of these things to be true in order for the whole thing to be true and for not weird to print, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say out print, and I'm running out of time. I'm going to expand on this question in the next video. So this is going to be part 1 of this question. But let me just run this. Oh, I said not weird again. Apologies. So this should be weird. Like this. So the wrong answer. weird like that. So this should work.